You are now listening to The Perfect Prana with Kyah Ann. What's poppin'? What's good? You're listening to The Perfect Prana show on 88.1 FM WCRX, also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where I post extended versions. I'm Kyah Ann, your host and a yoga instructor on the Chicago scene, and I have a lot in store for you all today. So if you love yoga, this is the perfect place to be, and if you do not love yoga, this is still the perfect place to be because I have the yoga news, where I speak about what's going on in the world of yoga. Yoga Heals, where I bring on a very special guest and talk to them about their practice, and the weekly wellness challenge, where I've been following the 8 limbs of yoga. But before we get into all of that, let's center ourselves. Let's take this moment to go inward and just focus on our breath, focus on our prana. Prana, translating to breath, is in the breath of life, our life energy force. There's many translations. So no matter what you're doing, you're sitting in the car, you're walking in the park, you're laying on the couch, you're just chilling in the house, it doesn't matter. Just take this moment to align your spine. Create a nice line of energy from your tailbone to your crown so breath can effortlessly move through you. Start to notice your breath without controlling it, and just know you can always come back to this. Start to gradually deepen your inhales and gradually lengthen your exhales. Go ahead, push out all of your breath right now. And with me, take an inhale right through your nose into your belly, filling up to your lungs. And hold at the top. And exhale, sigh it out, pushing out all the air, leaving no breath behind. With me, start a new breath cycle in through your nose, filling all the way up. And exhale, sighing it out, pushing out all the breath, a nice long exhale. In through your nose, filling up into your belly, past your rib cage, all the way up to your lungs. And exhale, letting the breath leave your lungs, then your rib cage, and then your belly. One more time, inhale through your nose, right into your belly, like a balloon. And exhale to deflate that balloon, pushing out all the breath, letting out a sigh. Let your breath come back to a steady rhythm. I am centered. Let's get on with the show. Yoga news. A Chicago woman is missing 8 days after a Bahamas retreat. Here's what we know. This hits too close to home, and I really hate this. And the worst part about it is this Black woman went missing on Juneteenth. What kind of craziness is that? That is incredibly sad, I'm not gonna lie. Anyways, Taylor Casey, she went on a summer yoga retreat in the Bahamas, and she had been wanting to go on this retreat for a long time. You know, it's a life goal. Yoga in the Bahamas, it sounds cool. And she just came up missing. She's 41 years old, and the most that they found was her cell phone in the water. She was last seen the evening of June 19th on the beach. She was regularly checking in with her friends and family, letting them know that she was living her best life in the Bahamas, practicing yoga, and then she just didn't show up to any of her yoga classes the next day, and people are like, what happened? Where's this woman at? The Royal Bahamas Police Force, they've been looking for her. They've posted a missing person flyer. The mom of Taylor said that she's going to take a trip to Bahamas to help search for her. Yeah, they've been saying that there's a lot of crime and violence going on in this area, the Bahamas, with tourists and non-tourists. So who knows what happened? Like, you know, the most they found was her cell phone in the water. And That's all that I have about the case. Yeah, she's been practicing yoga for 15 years. I guess she travels a lot and does a lot of little adventures and stuff. But yeah, it just really broke my heart because I'm like, oh, this woman is, from Chicago. I'm not from Chicago, but look, I live here. But she's from Chicago and she's black and I don't know. It just made me want to cry. I'm not going to lie. When I was reading, I was like, this is such a sad story. And honestly, it just makes me scared to go on any solo trip. Like, it sounds all fun in theory. Like, yeah, go on your solo trip and practice yoga, do these yoga retreats. But I guess there are risks that come with that. She was practicing with Shivananda Ashram yoga retreat. Anyways, so they're still looking for this woman. They're still on the search. They're still taking tips. Just completely sad. The Chicago yoga community is kind of small, so I'm sure that I know people that knew her if she's been practicing that long and she's from Chicago. Yeah, that's just really heartbreaking. If I ever want to go on a retreat or anything like that, I will do that. I will, and I know that I want to because it's like I like to travel, I like to yoga, so that's like right up my alley. But like, man, it's like, what precautions do you need to take? Because there's a few cases like this where people go on these retreats and then they come up missing. Like, what's the deal? What's that about? I don't know. I'm blessings to her and her family. Hopefully she comes up and she's found healthy and alive. Next, other yoga news. June 30th, Sunday, this upcoming weekend will be Social Media Day. Yay. I guess it's a day to celebrate social media and the interconnectedness between people and all that great stuff. Listen to the end of the episode for the weekly wellness challenge because the challenge will actually tie into this. I love that it's Social Media Day. That's cool, I guess. Social media has its benefits, but it also has its downsides. Some may say the downsides outweigh the benefits, but again, listen to the end of the episode. We'll get into this, but it's interesting that it's Social Media Day and that I'm about to drop this weekly wellness challenge on you guys. So, yeah. Yoga Heals. This week's Yoga Heals, Mary Klonowski. I actually had her as a teacher this past semester as my yoga teacher, and I'm so happy because I've never met somebody so enthusiastic, passionate, and knowledgeable about traditional yoga. She has a specialty in Iyengar yoga, Hatha yoga, and Ashtanga yoga. Her practice dates back to the 70s. She's done many teacher trainings, many workshops, including with BKS Iyengar himself. She has so much to share, and honestly, my introduction could not do her justice, so let's just get on with the conversation. First, I'd like to say thank you so much, Mary, for being with me today. I've been waiting to have a conversation with you for such a long time because you're just such an amazing yoga teacher and you really helped to transform my practice and to also just transform me as a teacher. So I'm like, okay, I know that you'll have a lot of great insight and just a lot to share if you come on the show. So thank you for coming on.
So happy to be here. Thank
And
you.
then, yes, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
The first thing I would like to ask you, I ask every single guest that comes on this show is, when did you start practicing yoga and why do you still practice yoga today?
Right. So, I started practicing yoga back in 1984, and that's when I started practicing regularly. Now, I was introduced to yoga when I was 9 or 10 years old by my parents had a friend who had visited India and he came back to the States and he did a slideshow about his trip to India where he had met 300-year-old swamis and he talked about all of performing all of these amazing things that you could do, some of the siddhis, which if you know what that is, but that's about like knowing, that's those super kind of paranormal sort of attainments that can be had as you're doing your practice regularly. And he had experienced that and he brought it to the group. And he did some simple things like reading people's energies and stuff like that. But that was, I was 9 and 10 years old, and it blew my mind. And then later on in high school, I took a class that was a yoga class that was offered in our community college at College of DuPage back in the 70s. But then, it seems like every decade I just keep on, going back to, yoga. And so the 1984 was when I met Sudha, who was my guru, who was living sort of around the corner in this commune, this yoga commune that existed around the corner where I lived in an apartment in Lakeview in Chicago. And he changed my life. So, and why, and what's the other question? Oh, why do I still practice?
Yeah, what keeps you coming back to your mat?
I mean, I think everybody needs to practice yoga. I mean, in one way or the other, it's the only thing that really maintains like this healthy lifestyle that you're trying to get, and to calm down. We have such busy lives. And so it's just a, time that you can dedicate to yourself, to calm yourself down, to de-stress. It humbles my ego. Yeah, I have an ego. Yep. And it helps me manage my emotions. It helps me, with the yamas and the niyamas. I mean, basically, my practice really focuses on that. Trying to be, honest and open and pain-free, just, it goes on and on. But, yeah, that's basically why I devote myself to it. And I do a lot of caring for others. I do a dedicated, yoga teaching and it seems like that's my path right now, more and more going towards, teaching to people who need it versus people who just want it. You know what I mean? Like these are people who like cancer patients, like people who are just like free yoga. I'm all into I'm all into this in this stage of my life. I'm not necessarily needing to, it to sustain, a living, financially. And so it's nice to be able to give back to the community in that way. So I'm doing my own practice for that. And then my own practice helps me focus on myself. And if you are a caregiver of anybody, or if you know anyone who's a caregiver, you know that it's really important to take care of yourself. And, you get on your mat and there's just this magical feeling, even if you just lie there, like for just that very beginning of like, let's center ourselves. Let's figure out where we are and focus on what your own needs are. And it's a powerful practice. And yeah, so I guess that's the answer. Long answer.
So there was actually a few things that you said that I had questions about and I wanted to ask you about. First, you mentioned a guru, which is a little bit controversial in the yoga world now, just because there's just so many situations that have gone left with gurus. And again, that position of power in the dynamic between some people. But could you talk a little bit about your experience with your guru? And then also, if you recommend every yogi should have a guru?
Yes. Okay. So Swami Narayananda is the
To hear the rest of my conversation with Mary, search The Perfect Prana Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Stay tuned to hear Mary's pranayama, the weekly wellness challenge, and the quote of the week. Before we get off this phone call, I am going to ask you to lead us through a quick pranayama for the radio.
And I'm the one, I was thinking about this, and the one I chose, I was like, which one should I do? And I really, like I said, reconnected with my original teacher and his guru at the ashram. And so this was like way back when. This was the practice that the pranayama that he would bring, and I'll never forget it. And it's a breath. It's called the complete breath. And so the first thing to do is and we're going to do it from an upright seated position, right? But you can do it lying down as well. And sometimes when you're first teaching it or learning it, that you might want to do it lying down. But I want you to take a hand, it doesn't matter which one, just bring it to your abdomen. And then just breathe in and out and let the breath come without any control. Because what I want you to do is just to feel how when you breathe in and out, how the belly moves. So as you inhale, there's an inflation. And then as you exhale, a deflation of the belly. And sitting up is good, but I think laying down sometimes can be a little bit easier. So, but anyway, we're going to take the other hand now. We're going to bring it over to the side body. And now when you take it to the side, I want you to take your side body like this. You're going to go, instead of fingers forward, you're going to turn so that the thumb is forward and the fingers are in back of you. So you have one hand on the belly, and you're going to have one hand at the side of the ribs with the thumb forward and fingers back. And just feel now how the belly is inflating and deflating, but also how the ribs are expanding and contracting. And so then you're going to take the hand from the belly, you're going to bring it to the chest up by the collarbones. And again, as you're breathing in and out, the belly's inflating and deflating, and the ribs are expanding and contracting, and then the chest is rising and falling. And then release that. So, in yoga, when the respiratory system is actually considered, there's more than just the lungs, right? There's various aspects. In fact, I'm dividing this up into 3, but you can divide it into 5. You can go into 7. There's all these different, things that you can divide it into, but this is going to be real basic. We're going to divide it into 3, the belly, the ribs, and the chest. So just let the hands rest on your knees and keep the spine nice and long from the tail to the crown of your head, and close your eyes. And we're going to focus first with the breath just on the abdomen. So exhale first, normally. Breathe in and breathe out. And just feel the belly inflate as you inhale and deflate as you exhale. Breathe in the belly, 1. Exhale through the belly, 1. In the belly, let it inflate, 1, 2. Let the belly deflate as you exhale, 1, 2. Breathing in the belly only, you're going to breathe in 1, 2, 3. And then exhale, let the belly deflate, 1, 2, 3. Starting in the belly, you inflate, 1, 2, 3, and then take it to the very bottom of the ribs as you're expanding the bottom rib cage just a little bit. Then exhale and let the ribs contract, and then let the belly deflate, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in the belly, 1, 2, 3. In the ribs, 4 and 5, all the way up to into the armpits. And then let the ribs contract, 1, 2, as you're deflating the belly, exhaling, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In the belly, 1, 2, 3, ribs, 4, 5. Now take it all the way up to the chest, to the collarbones on 6. And the chest falls on 1. The ribs contract, 2, 3, and the belly deflates, 4, 5, and 6. Start in the belly. 1, 2, 3. Ribs. 4, 5. Let the ribs contract. 1, 2. Belly deflates. 3, 4, and 5. In the belly. 1, 2, 3. To the very bottom of the ribs. And 4. And contract the ribs on 1. Belly deflates. 2, 3, 4. In the belly only. 1, 2, 3. And exhale. 1, 2, 3. In the belly. 1, 2. And out. 1, 2. In on 1. Out on 1. And then let the breath take care of itself. And remember to use complete breathing throughout your day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. Namaste.
Namaste.
Weekly Wellness Challenge. Brahmacharya, the right use of energy or chastity. Celibacy, there's a few different translations or interpretations. Brahman being the creator in Hinduism or in yogic terms, and behavior that aligns with Brahman, so with the creator or with God. There's different thoughts for that. There's something that I want to note, actually. I brought in my book from this past semester. One, because I interviewed my yoga teacher, and I'm so glad that I got yoga the Iyengar way, just because it's just packed with information. I like how it's set up and just gives a systematic approach to each pose, but also to each limb of yoga. And mind you, we're following the 8 limbs of yoga, and the first limb is yama, so we're still in the limbs of yoga. And something that I found as I was skimming through this is the essence of yama is not to harm any living creature in either thought, word, or deed. And I thought it was interesting because when you think about each of these yamas, I mean, of course, the first yama is ahimsa. Then we go to truthfulness, satya. We go to non-stealing, asteya. And then we're on chastity, brahmacharya. And we're also, afterwards, we're going to aparigraha, which is non-greed. So all of these things, like by not practicing these, you could harm yourself or others by lying to others, being dishonest. I mean, by directly being violent, by stealing from them, that's harming them. By overindulging in things, that's harming yourself. So all of these kind of represent non-harming. Yeah, what's this week's wellness challenge? Let's get onto that part. Brahman, the creator. So I'm always driven to go more in a creative direction. Creating is so important for everybody, and we all are creators, whether we know it or not. Like, we all are inherently creative. That's within all of us, but sometimes we just get too wrapped up in the world, and we have to remind ourselves to create more, consume less. And honestly, that's just kind of what you have to do for any goal in life. You have to find ways to create more and consume less. When we're in the mindset of creating, we're adding to the world, we're being in touch with our Brahman, our godliness, our divinity. Let's do like a creative weekly wellness challenge. This is going to be a challenge for me. This week, what I want to do is put away my device for at least 1 hour a day, minus sleeping. That doesn't count. But I mean, like, just as I'm living out, I want to be present in the world. And I feel like putting my device away will help me be more creative. Let's redirect that energy away from our phone into the present moment, what's actually here, what's actually right now. in the real realm. Mostly everybody needs that because, again, our devices, it's just another form of consumption that I am tied to, that a lot of us are tied to, which is, it is what it is. But, you know, take an hour away from that. Give an hour to the present moment. I feel like that's something that will help with creativity automatically. Gotta find new things to do. So in a way, abstaining from being on my phone for just a moment, because the hours spent on my phone is crazy, between just watching stuff, talking on the phone, and again, that's fine. Like, I love being connected to people and seeing what's going on in the world and all that stuff. But yeah, and okay, I said earlier, funny enough, listen to the weekly wellness challenge, because Sunday is World Social Media Day or National Social Media Day, whatever it is. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take a break from my phone from an hour. And that's how we're going to celebrate that. Because it's so necessary. It's so necessary. Before I go, let me leave you with a quote. And I'm taking from my book. Technically, it was my textbook for this past yoga class, but Yoga the Iyengar Way. It's good to open this up and just look through it, because again, there's so much in this book, so much information, and it's really helped me, honestly. I can open up any page, try any pose, and look at the cues, and I'm like, okay, it just helps me understand postures deeper and understand anything deeper, any yogic thing deeper. Yeah, anyways, yeah, I love this book. So I opened up to a random page, 168, and speaking of Brahman, this is the quote: "The purpose of creation is to serve the individual being." I mean, of course, there's more information after that, but just sit with that. Let that marinate. Creating is for the individual being. It serves us. I mean, all of these limbs serve us, but sometimes what we create serves others, but it definitely serves us. I feel like people that are in that creative spirit, they get it. Everybody knows, like, when they're creating, when they have their thing, they're creating music, they're creating art, they're creating food, they're creating whatever the case is, whatever they're creating and they're being present with, they know that it serves them. Everybody knows that. Like, it's an experience everybody deserves. Everybody deserves to be creative, in touch with their creative spirit. Yeah. Sometimes the only way that people get in touch with their creative spirit is when they're creating children, which is funny because this limb of yoga is about chastity. But there's so many different interpretations for that in this modern world, but maybe it just is what it is, and we all need to accept that sometimes you need to abstain from that. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Perfect Prana Show on 88.1 FM WCRX, also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where I post extended versions. To keep up with me, follow me on Instagram at consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah. With that being said, the divine in me bows to the divine in you. Namaste.